Okay, welcome once again to our YouTube channel. We continue the video on the schools of thought in psychology. These Today we have discussed structuralism. We talked about functionalism. We talked about psychoanalysis or the psychodynamic perspective or school of thought. Today we're talking about the behaviorist school of thought, the behaviorism as it is called. Yes. It started in America, and as you all know, Americans very radical in nature with their activities. So the names we'll be looking at, or will be that will be very important to remember here is J.B. Watson. We'll remember J.B. Watson, that John Bonnet Watson. Then we'll remember B.F. Skinner. Then the activity of Albert Bandura. Yes, very important. So behaviorism came up in 1999, and there is a book they wrote. They called it Psychology as the Behaviorist View It. Yes, that is the name of the book. And in that book, somebody like Mary Ainsworth, yes, no, not Mary Ainsworth, Essink, Carl Essink, Hans Essink. Yes, H-A-N-S, then Essink is E-Y-S-E-N-C-K. Yes, Hans Essink looked at the work of Sigmund Freud, for example. Sigmund Freud that was talking about subconscious, unconscious, subconscious, and was like, this is like the work of, is as good as nothing. That's what he said. So, J.B. Watson on his own said in that book, Psychology as a Behaviorist View, that how can we say we are science? How can psychology be studied as a scientific inquiry or be called a scientific inquiry when they are talking about things we cannot observe? Remember, this is the reason we try to look at the characteristics of science. If a science subject or a scientific inquiry is not empirical, we cannot say it's science. If I cannot observe what you are doing, how do I refute it or confirm it? How do I test it or retest it? Yes, because science is also replicable. It must be replicable. If it's not, then it's not science. So J.B. Watson was the person that came aggressively or very aggressively on the activities of people like Sigmund Freud, and said no, if it's not observable, then it's not science. So to them, they looked at psychology as a scientific study of human behavior, but this time overt behavior, scientific study of overt behavior. To them, they believe we also call this behaviorist the stimulus response theory or perspective, because they always look at how we react or respond to the environment where we exist. So the word behavior, when you want to define the word behavior is defined as individual's response to external or internal stimulus. That is behavior. On the other way around, what is stimulus? Stimulus simply refers to anything that can elicit a response from any individual. So when you are responding to any stimulus, whether internal or external, then that is a behavior. We will not discuss that for now. Let's continue about their contributions, yes, to the beginning of psychology. So behaviorism, they believe that individuals behave the way they behave. Remember, this is where we are coming from. Philosophers like Hippocrates said that we behave the way we behave because of the level of fluid, those four bodily fluids we talked about in us. And structuralism in this contemporary time in 1879, let me use the word contemporary because this is when the science of psychology started. That's why I use that word. Yeah. Okay. So he said that we behave the way we behave or we can only understand the way we behave when we try to understand the units of the mind. While functionalism instead the function as we try to adapt. And Sigmund Freud, psychoanalyst, said, just try to get into the unconscious. You understand why people do what they do. It's in there, their childhood experiences and everything. Yes. So behaviorism said we only behave the way we behave because of learning. We learned it. Learning. They emphasized on the word learning. Learning in the environment. When you are stung by a scorpion, when you see the scorpion the next day, you are running. Because learning has taken place. So these persons here, for example, J.B. Watson in particular, was heavily influenced by the work of Ivan Pavlov, a Russian physiologist, yes, who founded the classical conditioning theory. It's a learning theory which we'll discuss in another course, not here. But yes, it was in 1909, classical conditioning was propounded by Ivan Pavlov. Yes, so J.B. Watson also, in conjunction with a research assistant, Rosalind Rayner, yes, that was in 1920. Yes, 1920. No, in 1920. Yes, 1920. He performed the experiment we call the Little Albert experiment. We will not discuss it here, perhaps in another course. Yes. So, but please, it's important we pick who did what and when and where. So the Little Albert experiment was done by J.B. Watson in conjunction with his research assistant called Rosalind Rayner, yes, in 1920. And like I said before, that book was written in 1919. And Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning theory, the experiment he did with dog, yes, was in 1909. Yes, okay. So, and another person, I don't know, we may not necessarily talk about the theories here. B.F. Skinner talked about operant conditioning theory. We'll take care of that in another course. Then Albert Bandura talked about the theory called the social learning theory, learning by observation and imitation, or we'll call it modeling. Yes, that is this school of thought, the behaviorist perspective to psychology. Another school of thought that is very important is, okay, please, before I move on, we understand very importantly that these persons had, like I said initially, they were very radical when they came in. They had so much influence in America in those days when they came up, and they had a lot of boasts. You know, as people will say, you can take a horse to the river, but you not force the horse to drink. B.F. Skinner tells you, I will take the horse to the river, and I can force the horse to drink, and he'll drink. That is the big boast he had. People like J.B. Watson said that he said that when you give him 12 infants well formed, like 12 infants, babies that were born and they were well formed, no defections or any abnormality, that he will be able to turn them using these principles of classical conditioning, operant, and all these behaviorist principles, which we'll discuss later, if not even in this year, next session, in second year. So he said if you give him these 12 infants, that he will turn them to anything you want them to be. He wants them to be. He can make one become a lawyer, one a pastor, one a thief, one a doctor, that he has that ability to do that. And that is behaviorist or behaviorism for you. Those things will be discussed later, and maybe you may understand later as you go into psychology, deep into psychology, understand why he had these big posts. Yeah, so we continue with another school of thought. The next is humanism, or we call it the phenomenological theory or perspective, but it's majorly known as the humanistic theory. Two major names here is Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, 1943. Yeah, so these are two proponents in this school of thought. They also came against the work of these behaviorists. When you understand the activities of these behaviorists that want to, perhaps, like a horse loves sugar, they want to step by step or quietly introduce sugar to the horse, leading him to the water, and perhaps he doesn't want to drink water, but because of that sugar he will drink. That is some of the ways the behaviorists do their thing. They know how to treat humans as robots. They can modify you using that principle to whatever they want you to be. They can shape you, shape a lot of things. So the humanist school of thought said, this is not science. This is unethical. Why are we treating humans like this, as robots, encoding in them what we want them to be, and so that they behave that way? So these persons came aggressively against the work of the J.B. Watson and others in that behaviorist school of thought. So they believe that individuals have right, they are rational, and they have free will, and able to make not only their own choices but the right choices. Please remember the assumptions of this particular school. Like behaviorists say that the major assumption is about learning. Humanists say that we have free will, we are rational, and we are able to make the right choices or our own personal choices. Some of the theories that came out from here, we'll talk about the client self-determination theory. Yes, so these are the work of these persons here. It's very important that we mention that this humanistic school of thought is the school of thought that came about, or that brought about the ethical principle of the study of the course, psychology. So they are the one that came about that, and that's why today we're talking about client self-determination, freedom to withdraw, informed consent, a lot of those things. So they talk about principles like unconditional self-regard, empathy, and everything. So the school of thought, humanism, is very important. So we will not go deep into it, but for this particular course, I 101, these are the little things you must know, which I'm submitting here. You must know for the purpose of the course, yes, but subsequently in other years or sessions, you will know the reasons why this school of thoughts exists. Yes, so in summary, we discussed about behaviorism that considered learning and stimulus and response and over behavior, and the work of Ivan Pavlov, classical conditioning, and the work of B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning and social learning theory by Albert Bandura in 1975, 77, 1986. He has a lot of works. Yes. So, and then we talked about the humanists that said that individuals have free will and are rational and can make their own choices. Yes, and should be given right for self-actualization. So thank you very much, and please remember to subscribe if you have not, and like and share with your friends, and see you in the next podcast. We'll continue with other theories and schools of thought in psychology. Thank you very much.